Good afternoon. Absolutely, absolutely. So welcome. If you're here in the sanctuary, if you're at home on Zoom, if you're watching this later on YouTube, we welcome you to our Sunday service. My name is Reverend Jim Ernston. I am co-minister here along with Reverend Lisa Herklotz. Come say hello to either one of us after the service. Let us go ahead and share in our mission. Now, to let you know our mission, everything that we do reflects our mission. So if you come to us and ask us, why don't we do this? We will measure it against our mission statement. So, along with me, Unity of Charlotte is the place where we nurture a deep and mature experience of God through the practice of unity principles. Simply put, we are here to love, grow, and serve. If you are here for the first or maybe even second time, we would invite you to gently raise your hand and we will give you just a nice welcome here. We won't embarrass you, but we will welcome you. There's someone there. So, welcome. We invite you to reach out to either Reverend Lisa or myself and say hello, introduce yourself to anyone here, and get to know us as a congregation, Unity of Charlotte, or as a greater movement, Unity itself. If you have any questions, just let us know. There are multiple ways for us, and you'll see on the screen behind me, there are multiple ways to know what's going on at Unity of Charlotte. We have our website. We have our newsletter. That's the little monkey up there. We use MailChimp, Facebook, YouTube, and the little push pin is our bulletin board in the back. And you'll see why, because we have things on that bulletin board that that's the only way that you can do some of the things that we're about ready to do. So, yeah, that's how to get to know us and what's going on within Unity of Charlotte. Let's go ahead and move into our opening prayer. So I invite you to gently close your eyes, make yourself comfortable. Take a breath as we move from our head down into our heart, as we feel and know and affirm our oneness with the divine. We know that we are one with that universal God Spirit, and we are so grateful for that knowledge. We are one with the universe. We are one with each other here at Unity of Charlotte. We are one with our community as well. That shows up for us in terms of inclusiveness for us, as we are inclusive to those in our community. We also voice our gratitude for Wesley United Methodist Church for sharing this space with us over the past year. We bless them on their journey forward as well. We bless them with love, joy. We also see that in our transition as well. We're thankful for this partnership. And with that we say, amen. So please join me in our prayer of oneness out loud. There is one presence and one power in my life and universe, God the good, omnipotence. I do want to mention as well that we have a prayer box out in the hallway. That prayer box is to collect prayers. There's a little form, there's a pen. You can fill out the prayer request, put it into that slot. Our prayer team will pray over that for 14 days. We bundle that up and we send it to Silent Unity in Kansas City, so it gets prayed for another 30 days. So many prayers happening here. So that gets, again, through Silent Unity. So utilize that prayer box. Also, we have on our newsletter, we have a link to where you can enter a prayer request that way. And on our website. So lots of different ways. You can also reach out to Silent Unity over the phone. They have a nice app on your smartphone. So lots of different ways to reach out in terms of prayer within Unity. At this time, I want to invite up both Chris and Maria as they read our daily word today in both Spanish and in English.
My name is Chris. Sunday, June 2nd, Optimism, Daily Word. Optimism colors my world with love. My experience of the world depends on the attitude I bring to it. When I hold positive thoughts and share the love in my heart generously, the world becomes an inviting, friendly place. Optimism makes me a great magnet for positive people, exciting opportunities, and the serendipity of all kinds. It lifts up my consciousness out of the mire of worry, anxiety, and fear, and it keeps me focused on the beauty of the earth, goodness of people, the presence and the power of God. When I perceive God in kinds acts of selfless impulses and loving service happening all around me, my optimism grows. I feel renewed and inspired as I focus on its right and good in my life. In gratitude for the world's wonders, I grow in optimism. You do not believe, overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Romans 21:12. Thank you. Maria.
Thank you. La palabra de hoy es optimismo. El optimismo colorea mi mundo con amor. Mi experiencia del mundo depende de la actitud que adopte ante él. Cuando sostengo pensamientos positivos y comparto amor de manera generosa, el mundo se transforma en un lugar acogedor y amistoso. El optimismo actúa como un imán, atrayendo personas positivas, oportunidades, emociones, acontecimientos afortunados y eventos inesperados hacia mí. Esta mentalidad positiva eleva mi conciencia por encima de la preocupación, la ansiedad, el miedo, centrando mi atención a la belleza del planeta, la bondad de las personas y la presencia y el poder de Dios. Al percibir a Dios en los actos desinteresados y generosos, mi optimismo crece. Agradeciendo maravillas del mundo, mi positividad se fortalece. Yo soy optimista. No permitamos que nos venza el mar. Es mejor vencer al mar que al bien.
How many read the daily word this morning? A few of you did. Well, you got my whole lesson. I picked it up and I said, well, there it is, in different words. So we'll have fun. We'll have fun playing with that lesson through a few different perspectives. But optimism is the white cloud we can live under. So let's talk about that for a minute. I want to start by talking about life. What do we call this thing called life? Life is the ever-present, ever-creating, ever-changing divine flow of God. There's no time it is not, and there's nothing that is not in that flow and a part of that flow and composed of that flow. One of the most brilliant quotes I got out of another daily word this week said, every part of my body and mind is composed of divine life and intelligence. Every part of my body and mind is composed I thought was an interesting word because I don't usually think about being composed of, but it is composed of divine life and intelligence. Eric Butterworth, we've been teaching out of this book this past month, and in this one of his chapters, he used this term. He said, "We are God's living enterprise." I thought that's a kind of a cool way to think about it. We are God's living enterprise. An enterprise is like the activity of, the engagement of, an organization that is engaged in an activity. And that is what we are to God. We are God's life in activity. But when I think about my life, from my, just if I say, well, what is life? Well, I tend to view life as what I'm aware of, the life that I'm aware of, the life that's all around me, my home, my family, my church, the people I know at the grocery store, things that happen in Charlotte. Kind of like when I think of life, I tend to think of it within my limited bubble of awareness. And I think, well, that's life. And I think we all do that. But we know there's so much more going on. There's so many other things happening just in this community that I'm not aware of. There's things happening on the other side of the globe. There's things happening out in this universe of planets and solar systems and supernovas and stars. And there's just, life's just so much bigger than the life I perceive. And it brings us a consistent flow of experience that's everything from charming to challenging. But that's life. It's a flow. So, I'm going to start off with a little science lesson. Okay? Everyone ready? These are my science glasses. I'm serious when I put my science glasses on. I bet you didn't think you were going to get a science lesson today. Wait, okay. There we go. And I can't see anything out of these glasses, so. There we go. We're going to talk a little bit. This is in Eric Butterworth's book, and we're going to start with this little bit of science about these two opposing life principles called entropy and syntropy. And when you leave here today, you're going to be able to go impress all your friends with these two big words. And what's interesting, there are two principles which we know in unity. A principle is a universal, unchanging truth. Yet these are two opposing principles. And that leads us to a talk about paradox, which will be another Sunday. But let's start with entropy. Entropy is the idea that entropy causes, I'm going to read this, entropy causes organized forms to gradually disintegrate into lower and lower levels of organization. And this is the basis that science has once held, that the universe is like a great machine running down and wearing out. Have you heard that? The universe is a machine that's running down and wearing out. And it comes from the Greek word en. The prefix en means within, and the root word trope means change. So basically it means change within. And in this case, within means a closed system. So entropy is a change that happens in a system that's closed off to itself. So this is going to be important to remember. Entropy is movement towards separation, disorder, and dissolution. However, there has been mounting evidence in the science world of an opposing life principle that says syntropy, that's called syntropy, and syntropy is the influence through which forms tend to reach higher and higher levels of organization, higher and higher levels of order, and greater dynamic harmony. Syntropy. The Nobel Prize-winning biologist Albert Szent-Györgyi refers to it as an innate drive in living matter to perfect itself. An innate drive in living matter to perfect itself. Now, the interesting thing I want you to note about this is a movement toward unity and growth and evolution. Syntropy, while entropy is about coming apart and separating, entropy is about combining and joining. And the word from the Greek means the tendency to come together. The tendency to come together. This is a life principle that has been described in science. So, what does that have to do with us in unity? Is everybody ready to go out and impress our friends with entropy and syntropy now? In unity, we're going to look at these principles, and this is what Eric Butterworth, and why he introduced these two principles is because he says if we look at them from a psychological or spiritual perspective, let's consider them states of mind or states of consciousness. All right? An entropic state of consciousness is living under a black cloud. It's an awareness of being closed off in a system that doesn't know of an infinite divine source. It does not know. This is a consciousness, a belief system within a consciousness that believes it is its own source, and therefore it has this limited amount of energy and limited amount of time. And it's got to fight to survive. So safety and security and joy will never be experienced in this state of consciousness. We could also call it a very pessimistic view of life. Eric Butterworth says, in a personally symbolic sense, so taking the scientific idea and applying it as a personal symbolic idea, we slip into entropic consciousness when we synchronize our thoughts with the negative thinking of the world. Right? How many times a day do I flip on the news and I hear all this stuff and I start going down that road, right? If I synchronize my thoughts and my beliefs with the negative feedback that I'm hearing, then I'm going to be creating my own black cloud. I'm creating my own black cloud. And then what am I going to do? I'm going to perceive the world from a very entropic consciousness, one that's limited and separate and unsafe. And that is the kind of experiences I'm going to draw into my life. But this can be reversed because we are in charge of our mind. Nobody else. We are in charge of our mind. We have the ability to change our mind. We have the ability to release that line of negative thinking and align ourselves with the powerful, positive truth principles that we know as the universal truth. That there is a God that is infinite, good, ever creating, ever flowing, ever present, and we are a part of that. We are God's living enterprise. This is what I call living under a white cloud. Actually, I didn't. I took it from Eric Butterworth. I'll give him some credit. He calls it living under the white cloud. He says, in a personally symbolic sense, we rise into a syntropic consciousness when we keep our mind on God. When we keep our mind, when we synchronize it to these truth principles that we teach here at Unity, but they're universal principles taught in almost any faith tradition. When we align ourselves with the awareness of divinity as our source, of infinite substance as the universe we live in and what we are composed of, and divine intelligence that flows forth as life. When we synchronize our thoughts with those ideas and beliefs, we create a life of joy, of flow, and of openness. In Psalm 91, it's called "In the Shadow of the Almighty." That white cloud, it's like you're in the shadow of the Almighty. Although I would say not only are we in the shadow, we are the living energy of the Almighty. We are the living expression of this. So when we choose to move into a consciousness of oneness with the creative flow, when we choose to work with life instead of against it, and when we choose a positive, loving conviction of our truth principles, then that is what will be expressed in our experiences. And it will almost seem as if we're living a charmed life. Because when we're no longer in a closed system, that's kind of really in a closed system, what happens? You just keep recycling fear. Fear just sort of keeps recycling. And then that's all you see out there, and you miss all the things that life is really bringing. I think all these great opportunities are always there, but we don't see them. I once had a dream. It was at a time when I was seeking, I wanted a teacher who was enlightened and awakened, that could really carry me into a higher experience. I was in the Course in Miracles at the time. And I kept praying for this teacher. And then one night I had this very powerful dream that I can remember to this day. And I came up to the house that I used to live in, my childhood house. My dad was on the front porch, and there was an old gentleman standing with him. And I walked up, and I did not have a good relationship with my father at that point. And actually, it's one of the forgiveness things I was still working on. And in my dream, I just looked at my dad, and I just started reviewing all the things I thought he did wrong, and how angry I was at him, and how hurt I was. And I just thought, who is that old man? I don't know who that old man is with him. All I could focus on was my father and how angry I was. And later, after I woke up and I thought about that dream, I realized it's like that small inner voice said, that was your teacher. Your father was bringing him to introduce you. Like, that was my teacher who I had been praying for. Now, that dream just told me, what if I'm in an entropic consciousness full of anger and unforgiveness, what am I going to see? I'm going to miss the opportunities that life is actually bringing me. And I won't even see them, and I will think, oh, why me? Why me? Why can't you bring me this? And the universe is going, here, here, here. But we can't see it till we're ready. Now, there's something important that I want to talk about at this juncture, because I want to ask you, does this mean we'll never, if we're in this syntropic consciousness, this is also the Christ consciousness, if you want to bring it into unity terms. This is our God consciousness within. Does this mean it's never going to rain on us? Does it mean we're never going to have a challenging experience in life? No, I'll answer it for you. No. I'd love to tell you yes. I mean, maybe I would, but not really, because those experiences are how we grow. It's that when we're in this state of consciousness that is open, it accepts this grander flow of life, still bringing experiences from the charming to the challenging, still bringing these experiences to us, but now we accept them as they are. And we're able to more easily flow through them and learn and grow from them. So instead of why me, it's like, what am I learning from this experience? How can I grow from this experience? So this is important because sometimes in unity, we teach this change of mind, and sometimes we think that doesn't mean that means we'll never have a physical ailment. There'll never be any accidents in our lives. Our loved ones will all do exactly what we think they're supposed to do, and life will be perfect. But life is bigger. It's bigger than my little idea of what perfect is. It's perfect because it's whole, because every experience, when it's accepted and flowed and taken in and learned from, grows us to a greater awareness of that wholeness. This innate drive to perfection that the biologist was speaking about is really the innate spiritual drive for us to remember our wholeness by accepting every part of us exactly as it is. In our book club, we just finished up the Living Untethered with Michael Singer, and one of the comments that got made, which is still sticking with me today, was someone shared that they're learning to just accept all the parts of themselves the way they are. Because we're not used to doing that. There's always parts of us that we don't really like as much. And when we truly, deeply open up and simply accept every part of us, the discovery is of wholeness. That's where perfection isn't found by changing those parts we don't like. It's by accepting them and bringing them back into our consciousness with the wholeness of love. And in a moment when that acceptance is true and deep, you will experience yourself whole and perfect without changing anything. But in a sense, then, you will be changed, because you will be living from a different state of consciousness. And not only is this going to bring you a great sense of peace and joy in your own life, but Eric Butterworth went on to say, when we maintain this optimistic, syntropic view toward the conditions in the world, not only will we flow more easily through them, but we will be carrying our white cloud of syntropy into the world, and will be a positive and highly contagious influence. In a very real sense, he says, we make a difference. We make a difference not only in our life, but that shift in consciousness affects the world. So, how do we move into this state? And I'm gonna kind of wrap it up here, because here's what Eric Butterworth reminds us of. God is not someone to reach for, but a presence to accept. Let's just think about that for a moment. We don't have to reach out of ourselves for God. We have to accept that presence is already here. And that is what life is. Yeah. So he goes on to say, turn often to the center of your being and relax in the assurance that you are God's living enterprise. We each are God's living enterprise. Together, as a single body, we are God's living enterprise. Because syntropy brings us together. There's a unity and a harmony. And that's a beautiful expression for the development of our spiritual awareness. So, I invite you this week to make a determination to walk through whatever life brings you in a consciousness that you are living under a white cloud. And if a black cloud starts to form, no worries, shake it off. You and I have control of our mind and our thoughts, and we have choice through the power of will to change that black cloud to white by shift in our consciousness. In Romans 12:2, Paul said this, and this is often quoted, but it's so perfect here to remind us. Do not conform to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. It's very much what we've been saying. When we lift our consciousness, align with these spiritual truths, we live in a way that is in this world but not of it. And we bring that light with us to everyone we meet. Okay. Let's take some time to go in and feel and be aware of what it means to be God's living enterprise. I came up with 2 affirmations. The one, I am God's living enterprise, of course, sounded like the perfect affirmation, but then this other one popped up. I am a child of the universe, richly endowed with the fullness of all good. Because our song after this is I'm a child of this universe. So pick which one really resonates with you. I am a child of the universe, richly endowed with the fullness of all good. Or if you want, simply, I am God's living enterprise. As we go into meditation. I invite you to sit back, gently close your eyes, or softly focus them in front of you. Begin by focusing on your breath, breathing in slowly and deeply. Hold for a moment and breathing out long and slow. One more time, breathing in a long, slow, deep breath. Hold for a moment and breathe out a long, slow exhale. And as you do, feel your shoulders lower a little more as they relax. Feel your face soften. Feel your body become just a little heavier as it's supported in the chair. This is a sacred moment to relax, to open, and to turn deeply within. Because there is within each one of us the knowing and the experience of who we are as a child of this infinite and accommodating universe, of what we are as God's living enterprise. This is the place we go to that allows us to release those ideas and events that capture us into some negative doom and gloom. We just gently let those go and say, no, this is not what I am. I am God's living enterprise. Let those words sink in deeply into your mind, your heart, your body, and your consciousness as we take a few moments in silence. And once again, begin to move your focus and attention to your breath. Feel the air moving in and out. In and out. And allow your attention to once again center in your body, feeling it being held by the chair, perhaps wiggling fingers and toes. Gently shift as we once again become present here and now in this holy place. Remembering always, I am a child of this universe. I am God's living enterprise. And so it is. Namaste.
Before we move into our offertory section of this service, I'd like to invite up Alan Batten. Our board has reached out to a handful of people in terms of testimonials as to why do they support Unity of Charlotte.
Reverend Jim, today we're going to talk about what we talked about today. Today I'm going to be reading from the 3rd chapter of this little book called Prosperity Code. It's by somebody by the name of Alan Batten. The book will be on sale for $10, all proceeds going to Unity of Charlotte during lunch. But the proceeds will go to Unity Charlotte when we put it in the bank tomorrow. So you just pulled up to the Universe's drive-through window. And the speaker says, "Your order, please." Well, are you going to order what you usually order? Yes, you say. Give me a helping of anxiety, some seasoned wretchedness, and a supersized cup of despair. Ah, says the voice, the usual. We have a special going today on a heaping potion of uselessness at no extra charge. Please pull up to the next window. Is this how you are living your life? With the usual and getting back the usual. I'm here to tell you, I live like that, and I found that by changing my mindset, I changed my mind. I changed my mind, I changed the universe. It's very easy to fall into the lack and limitation mindset because I was raised by children of the Depression. I raised children with that mindset of depression. And the mindset that I brought forth was, there's never enough. I'm going to run out. I will not have enough to live on. Then I changed my mind. And when you change your mind, you change your life. Take it from a best-selling author. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan. Again, these will be out there in the fellowship hall. Now is the time where we know that as we give, we also receive. So I invite you to take your gifts in your hands. If you have given online, hold that image of you doing that online, as well as together we say our prosperity blessing. Joyously I give this gift, knowing the divine presence blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. The light of God surrounds us. We are light. The love of God enfolds us. We are love. The power of God protects us. We are power. The presence of God watches over us. We are presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.